Have you heard about loop scheduling? Something I think many of us have done instinctively, but it's a thing. It's not like block scheduling where you think on Mondays you do certain things, Tuesdays other, and different and repeating patterns throughout the week. Sometimes block scheduling was what we did when you think of college classes, or even maybe you did them in high school. The pitfall of block scheduling is that if you miss a day and you're on a weekly block schedule, you have to wait a week for it to roll back around again. And that can be a really big gap. But loop scheduling handles that and is especially good if you have a chaotic life. It allows for much more flexibility. Somebody asked if unschoolers use loop schedules, and I don't see why not. It just depends on what you're putting on the loop, whose interests or activity choices they are. People always think that unschooling is a free-for-all, but it doesn't have to be. Flexible, yes. Absolute chaos, no. I mean, maybe occasionally. So let's talk about how loop schedules could work and how you could use them if you're having a hard time remembering everything. I'm Sue Patterson, and this is the Unschooling Mom2Mom Podcast. If you're new here, welcome. Be sure to subscribe to the channel or the podcast platform, whatever you're using, so that you can be notified when I do another little unschooling pep talk for you. They're usually about 10 minutes long. I know you're busy. I try to get to it once a week because I'm busy too. My own 3 kids were unschooled, all in their 30s now, and I'm circling back to help families see that unschooling really does work. No, you don't have to be an extremist. We weren't. School just didn't work for us. I share what I've learned in nearly 30 years in the homeschooling community, what seemed to work and what seemed to not work. And if you want more from me, join my membership group where we talk twice a week on a group coaching call. And we have a WhatsApp channel to get questions asked and answered in between those calls. Plus, a fabulous community of unschooling parents. Since we're here together, I'm waiving the sign-up fee, so be sure to use the link in the description. And if you'd like to talk with me privately, I have $50 coaching calls for the rest of June. Be sure to grab that if it's more your speed. Okay. On to loop scheduling and how that can work for unschooling parents. With loop schedules, you make a list of what needs to be done. Maybe you'll use it for household tasks or meals or personal care. Then you simply work your way down your list. If you miss a day, no worries. You just pick up where you left off, then loop back again, hence the name. Your kids may like to create a loop schedule of their own. Maybe it has to do with exploring certain topics like art. They could make a list of all the different media they want to experiment with, then work their way through the list and loop back again. Maybe it's charcoal drawing or pastels or textile arts of some kind, or painting or coloring with pencils or markers, and then they loop back to the beginning of the list. This gives them some organization to their own ideas and helps them not forget what they were considering. Remind them that their loop schedule can be modified at any time. Something can simply rotate off the list and then they can pop something else in. Maybe it's more like varying exercise ideas. Instead of setting them up by day, you make your list and you work your way through it. Hiking and swimming and tennis and neighborhood walking and dance parties, and then repeat. This could be activities that you and the kids decide you want to be sure you get around to. Or maybe it's just for you yourself. So let's look at all this again from an unschooling perspective. Loop schedules work if you're trying to remember to get everything done on your list, a list you've created. That doesn't mean you can't look at these lists that I've made or somebody else has created and not duplicate them. It just means that you choose to use these other lists because they make sense for you and your kids, not because someone said, this is what good unschoolers do, or good parents, or organized people, or whatever. No more broad, sweeping generalizations. We're individualizing around here. If you find some particular aspect of the loop that you love, but you feel like you have to move on to the next thing and keep doing the others until it rolls back again, well, that's more like a school system. You want to be able to pull it out of the loop and do it at the regularity or frequency that fits it. If Zumba classes are Monday, Wednesday, Friday, loop scheduling isn't going to work. If you decide evening walks after dinner are really great, then that probably won't fit on a loop schedule either and can just be penciled into your weekly calendar on its own. You can do it, it just doesn't need to be in your loop schedule. So what else could be on a loop schedule? We hear homeschooling families talk about loop scheduling as they're trying to cover all the topics within the subjects. If you're a traditional homeschooler, loop scheduling may work better for you than the block scheduling that's more familiar. But as unschoolers, we aren't trying to check those boxes to cover those subjects each week. We're approaching it all from the learner's perspective. The system, whether it's the school, the curriculum, or the loop schedule that you've created, they can interfere with the self-directed process of the learner. While it might seem good to rotate everything through, that may only be good as an introduction to a variety of topics or whatever category you're organizing. Once the kids want more of a certain thing, don't tell them, no, we have to keep with the system we've created. That's prioritizing the system over the learner. And as unschoolers, we're moving away from that. Same goes with keeping something on your loop schedule. Where I really think loop scheduling can work in unschooling families or when you're tackling meal menus or household chores. Creating a rotation removes the extra time devoted to trying to remember what's next or what needs to be done. A lot of us have decision fatigue because we haven't planned some things out. Things that don't require flexibility could just be mindlessly checking the box on a loop schedule and moving on to the next when you have time, like maybe dusting and vacuuming and laundry and bathrooms and kitchen cleanup. I did this when my kids were younger. I wasn't really aware it was a loop schedule, but it was. First we'd have pasta and then tacos and then stir fry and then casserole and then grilling and then pizza. And then if we ate out, we'd just pick up where we left off. I'd always know what needed to be on the grocery list without a lot of thinking. I knew what was going to happen. No decision fatigue about food. That way you don't have to waste your energy on those kinds of tasks and you can spend it on connecting with the kids. Another way loop scheduling might be useful for unschooling parents is to use it for personal growth. You can list out what you'll do to keep learning more about unschooling and deschooling. That's going to help you with your confidence. Just like the kids, though, you may discover that you have a preference. Maybe you start with podcasts and videos and blog posts and a section of the course you bought, and then you loop back again. Only you discover that you keep zoning out with podcasts. So pull them off the rotation. Or maybe you discover you only like podcasts and videos. So you might add in more and let the others go. Loop scheduling can work if you want to add variety to your self-care routines without taking up the mental space to decide what to do. It could look like read something for fun, or make a seasonal craft, or do a deep breathing technique, or journaling, or give yourself a mani-pedi. And even with these, you may decide, I like reading and journaling before bed every night. So go ahead and do that. And then pull those off the rotation and replace it with something else you'd like to try for the loop. And while I want you to remain flexible in being available to the kids, you might set up a loop schedule for kid connection or family time. So maybe you have card games or whatever games they like, a read aloud time and messy science stuff and movie night or going on a bike ride together, playing whatever they want to play for 10 minutes, no interruptions allowed, going out for ice cream. Obviously, you're going to pick the things that work in your family, but setting it up on a loop schedule may help you stay on top of it all if you find yourself saying, oh yeah, I forgot we were going to try to do that. Over in my membership group, I talk with them about making time for certain things. These could actually be set up on a loop schedule that you can set your loop to whatever frequency you want. Maybe it's daily for 15 minutes or so. Maybe it's a few of these, but not necessarily the whole list. And then you just keep looping. What I recommend that people do to improve their confidence in unschooling is learn a little about unschooling or deschooling. So that's read, listen, watch, whatever works. Connect with the kids, touch base with the unschooling community, find something fun locally, and then do something for self-care. If you're the kind of person that likes to make plans, but it's either too long range or you forget about it because of life's interruptions, a loop schedule could work for you. It's an adaptable structure that even unschoolers could use if they want it. And if you'd like to hear more about structure, I have another podcast, number 23, called Structure, Schedules, and Unschooling. I'll link that for you here on the video if you're watching on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform. So that's it for me for now this week. Be sure to subscribe and leave me a comment if you've used loop scheduling and how it worked for you. Happy unschooling. Enjoy your family. Have a great week.